Let's get started. Welcome to another lecture. Today we examine Lauryn Hill, an artist whose corpus, though not vast in count, is vast in consequence. I am Alexei, and with me is Priyanka.
Hi, I am Priyanka. I am excited and a little nervous because the music here is so emotionally dense, but I think we can break it down carefully.
To frame our discussion, Lauryn Noel Hill is a pioneering American rapper, singer, and songwriter who, by the broad consensus of the written record, reoriented late 1990s popular music. She is a definitive figure in neo-soul and a principal early normalizer of rap singing and melodic rap, as heard most famously on The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. In this context, we observe a synthesis of hip-hop cadence with classic soul and reggae harmonics, all while maintaining lyrical specificity about love, faith, community, and self-definition.
So, basically, when we say she merged rap with soul and reggae, we mean not only the sound palette, but also the way she delivered lines across singing and rapping, right? Like that hybrid voice that later became standard for a lot of artists.
Precisely. It is worth noting that the Telegraph explicitly credited her with the popularization of hip-hop to audiences who did not previously consume rap at album scale. NPR named her among the 50 great voices, calling her voice the story of the hip-hop generation, and she remains the only woman to appear on certain historical lists of greatest MCs. The dual recognition as elite rapper and elite singer is particularly rare, and her entries on Rolling Stone's Singers List and VH1's 100 Women in Music underscore that duality.
I think the stakes are high here. Her work feels like a hinge in the door of modern music. Without her, what came after might look very different. And also, there are misunderstandings, like about credits and, the challenges she faced as a woman in a male-dominated industry.
Indeed, historically, her achievements expanded the commercial and critical reach of hip-hop. Her album of the year at the Grammys signaled institutional recognition of rap as an album-oriented art form. Simultaneously, she contended with gendered attribution biases. She publicly articulated that the term genius is more readily applied to men. The contested Newark lawsuit, settled without an authorship ruling, exemplifies the blurred boundaries between writing, arranging, and production in sample-era practices, a system in which credit protocols are notoriously ambiguous.
So, moving on to some basic history. In 1993, she co-starred in Sister Act 2 as Rita Watson. And for many listeners, that was the first time they heard that full, rich, raspy alto in a big, public way. Then the Fugees, then the solo album.
Let's start with the history. The Fugees' The Score, released in 1996, reached #1 on the Billboard 200, yielded cross-format singles such as Fuji La, Ready or Not, and Killing Me Softly, and won the Grammy for Best Rap Album. Hill's lead vocal presence functioned as the group's center of gravity. Moving forward, in August 1998, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill arrived to both critical acclaim and enormous sales, debuting at #1 with remarkable velocity and ultimately reaching multi-platinum status worldwide. February 1999 then becomes a canonical marker. She won 5 Grammys in one night, including Album of the Year, Best New Artist, and key R&B categories. She was the first rapper to win Album of the Year, and the first woman to receive 10 nominations in a single year. Around that period, she became the first rapper on the cover of Time. These are not merely trophies. They are signals to gatekeepers about what the center of culture now includes.
And one more early data point. Her appearance in Sister Act 2 also foreshadowed her interpretive range, which would matter later when she did, for example, Turn Your Lights Down Low with the Marley Archive, and contributed to the Nina Simone project. It shows the through line.
Before we get to the complexities, a brief personal note. I study patterns, whether in proofs or in phrasing. Hill's work interests me because we observe an algorithm of authenticity, a set of choices favoring organic instrumentation, human timing, gospel inflections, and confessional lyricism over programmatic polish. The output is noisy in the mathematical sense, but signal-rich in the human sense.
So yeah, moving on. 3 big questions. First, historically, how did her work redefine hip-hop and neo-soul? Second, a counterfactual. What if she had released music consistently after that initial peak? Third, what is her ongoing influence today?
On the first, historically, the lead-up includes the Fugees' reclamation of reggae and roots aesthetics within a hip-hop frame, and Hill's study of male MC flows to achieve commanding delivery. Then, on Miseducation, she codified a grammar for hybrid vocal performance, verses with percussive consonants, hooks sung with gospel coloration, and arrangements that include harps, clarinets, organs, and timpani. This, combined with candid narration of motherhood into Zion, constituted a mainstream alternative to prevailing gangsta tropes, proving vulnerability and spirituality could be commercially ascendant.
I am curious about the live side. People talk about her concerts being late sometimes and also being, reconfigured. Did those choices help or hurt the legacy?
It is important to understand the live corpus as iterative research rather than static reproduction. Hill became one of the highest-grossing rappers in live music by cultivating a fervent audience connection. Yet she also insisted on rearrangement, altered tempos, and extended medleys to keep the material alive. The resulting tension with punctuality norms is well documented, and she has offered explanations about energetic alignment and logistics. Analytically, this posture is consistent with her boundary setting more broadly. We observe the same ethos in her preference to be addressed as Ms. Hill, and in curating events like the Diaspora Calling Festival.
And then MTV Unplugged number 2.0, the stark guitar and voice. Some called it a breakdown, others called it brave. Does that belong to the redefinition story?
Yes, the Unplugged work amplified her move toward process over polish. It debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200 and went platinum despite polarized reception. Mystery of Iniquity from that set was later interpolated into Kanye West's All Falls Down, which signals that even her barest sketches carried structural potency. In simpler terms, the experiment became source code for others.
Okay, second question, the counterfactual. What if she had released 2 or 3 more full-length studio albums in the 2000s? Like, what might have shifted for the industry, or for collaborations that never happened?
Theoretically, a consistent release cadence could have extended neo-soul's chart centrality into the new century, further normalizing the rap-sung hybrid at the album level. We can infer more direct collaborations with contemporaries she already intersected with, such as Nas, D'Angelo, Mary J. Blige, and Santana. One might also posit an expanded producer role, given she wrote for Aretha Franklin and produced for Mary J. Blige and Whitney Houston. However, we must integrate constraints that actually occurred. A period of withdrawal including intensive Bible study, a desire to reprioritize motherhood, the protracted credit dispute with Newark, later legal entanglements culminating in a 2013 sentence, and an ongoing preference for autonomy over industrial cadence. She even experimented with direct-to-fan models like a pay-per-view video on her website. In conclusion, her choice architecture optimized for sovereignty rather than output frequency.
It makes me wonder about the personal costs and protections. Like, if she had accepted more acting roles or label schedules, maybe we would have more artifacts. But also, maybe we would have less of the boundary setting that later artists learned from.
Arguably. She turned down major film roles, recentered her family, and articulated discomfort with commodification. Those moves, while frustrating to markets, prefigured the contemporary language of artist wellness and agency. Even in adversity, she released Black Rage as protest, issued Consumerism and the compulsory mix under unusual constraints, and continued to appear judiciously on projects such as the Queen and Slim soundtrack and the Nina Simone project. More recently, she made a surprise 2024 Coachella appearance during her son Y.G. Marley's set, including an on-stage reunion with Wyclef Jean. The through line is intention over throughput.
Third question, present-day influence. Who, specifically, and how do we see it? And also, what remains open for research?
We observe her fingerprints in the normalization of rap singing across mainstream hip-hop and R&B. X Factor became a sample chassis for later hits by Drake and Cardi B. Doo-wop structure still reads as a template for moral parable that nonetheless moves a dance floor, and her confessional faith-tinged prose has become an accepted register for popular lyricists. Apple Music's placement of Miseducation at the top of its 100 Best Albums list confirms the album's enduring canonicity. As for live culture, her rearrangement ethos has informed how legacy artists reinterpret catalogs on tour, rather than simply treating them as museum pieces.
And she also shaped discourse about respect, like the Miss Hill preference and the, complicated punctuality debates. Do we see that influencing how fans and venues negotiate with artists now?
To some extent, her insistence on boundaries made visible an otherwise tacit negotiation between artistic process and industrial timekeeping. Contemporaries now speak openly about energy, alignment, and mental health, a discourse she helped normalize. Areas for further research include quantifying her influence on music linked to social activism, evaluating how her Vatican speech and later protest songs reconfigured expectations for celebrity speech, and studying credit attribution practices through the lens of the unresolved Newark dispute. Additionally, there is a sociological question about how motherhood narratives in pop, inaugurated so forcefully by To Zion, have shifted industry pressures on women.
Can we say that her philanthropy also matters here? The refugee project, voter registration, Haitian relief, and even the Halloween haunted house in East Orange. Those feel like extensions of the same civic imagination in the music.
Clearly. Her nonprofit efforts and later narration of concerning violence indicate a sustained engagement with liberation narratives. The music and the milestones, the awards and the refusals, all describe a consistent vector toward conscience. In this context, the occasional controversies surrounding a spiritual advisor, described by some as cult-like, remain unproven claims, which we should treat cautiously, analytically, and with explicit acknowledgement of their disputed status.
So I guess that kind of sums it up. She is a key figure in hip-hop and neo-soul. She redefined what an album could do, and her choices changed how artists imagined their own agency, even when those choices complicated the market's expectations.
To summarize, we defined Lauryn Hill as a pioneering rapper, singer, songwriter, reviewed the historical impact that recentered hip-hop at the Grammys and in global pop, considered a counterfactual in which more releases might have extended neo-soul's chart primacy, while noting that autonomy was the operative variable, and examined her ongoing influence on vocal hybridity, sampling lineages, live reinterpretation, and artist boundaries. For those inclined to continue, we recommend a deeper survey of women in hip-hop history, from early MCs through contemporary auteurs, to situate Hill within a longer arc. This then completes our present analysis. Thank you for listening. Keep reading liner notes and keep your ears, as it were, open to the spaces between the beats.
Thank you, Professor. And thanks, everyone. Maybe revisit Miseducation this week. Headphones on, no interruptions.